So we're back at it, and this time we got energy absorption, lava control, speak all languages, and combustion. There were a lot of debate about these four over on TikTok and IG, but now I'm asking you, which superpower would you choose? Let's go over the powers for how useful they are in today's world, how much of a threat you would be, and if you need a secondary power to safely use it. Now, first off is energy absorption. The ability to take in different forms of energy such as kinetic, heat, or magical energy and use it for various purposes. This power allows the user to deflect attacks, gain enhancements, or even drain the energy from others.
Which grants the user enhanced strength or speed and an infinite power source to draw from.
Yes, but how useful is it in today's world? Now, without any imagination, this power doesn't have any direct uses, but creativity is key. Since there aren't any other power beings
that we know of?
Exactly. You're not really getting blasted with magic or other types of a blast. But heat and kinetic energy is easily available to you and would be your main source of fuel. Kinetic energy is energy of motion, and that's almost everything you think about. So you can deflect attacks, drain them of energy, or redirect. With heat, you could technically become immune to fire or explosions, and same could be said with electricity, and I guess to some degree nuclear explosions. So what type of job could you get with this? Firefighter, electrician, and physical contact sports would be your best bet. Now, if you want to thrive on the black market, you could be a scary assassin and technically use this to absorb life force, which is energy basically, making you a vampire. But what about countermeasures? What's a power that would be a natural counter to it? Power negation would be the biggest threat to this.
So anyone that can cancel, warp, or alter abilities would be highly dangerous.
Also, anyone with immunity abilities or someone that can outright copy yours. But what are the drawbacks to this power? What other powers are safely needed to have this? Now, having infinite sources to pull from is great, but you aren't an infinite well, so overloading can cause you to be incapacitated or just dead altogether. So invulnerability would allow you to keep charging and shrug off the damage that comes from it. And enhanced stamina and endurance will also prevent you from getting super tired from overusage. Now, with that being said, what type of threat could you be? This one would completely depend on how much you can absorb and put out and how that looks. If we use Bishop from X-Men as a base example, he is a great case study for absorbing it and redirecting it as his own attack, which can easily clear a room. Now, if you can only contain a little bit before breaking, that would put you under city block level. But if you're like Bishop,
the man who drained the electricity of an entire city block and punched the Juggernaut,
you can easily be a city menace on the low end and maybe a state threat on the high end. But next up, we have lava control. Although a no-brainer as far as what it does, it is a superpower that grants the ability to create, manipulate, and control molten rock.
The core ability is the manipulation of molten rock, which includes creating it, shaping it, moving it, and potentially transforming oneself into it.
So how useful is it in today's world? Being a walking lava lamp in our world only gives you advantages in certain fields, like smelting, snow plowing, welding, and low-cost hot tub maker.
You also can work as an executioner for death row sentences.
And if you have loose morals, you would be a great assassin with the hassle of not having to hide a body. Just melt it.
Legal said to mentioned allegedly.
But what about countermeasures? What's a power that would be a natural counter to it?
Fire manipulation, thermal manipulation, and abilities related to water or ice, as well as some that can manipulate Earth itself. Fire manipulation would allow for a direct counter by nullifying the lava's power. Thermal manipulation could be used to alter the lava's properties, like freezing or cooling it.
But what drawbacks are there to this power, and what do you need to make up for it? Lava is weak to water and ice and extreme cold, so temp resistance would be a great addition, which also helps with heat since you would technically melt yourself if you aren't immune. You would also need immunity to smoke and volcanic gases that would emit from the lava. And lastly, I would say maybe an energy conversion based ability, since making lava has to consume your resources. So taking the page from energy absorption and using the heat to fuel yourself.
This would also be depending on if you produce the lava yourself or need materials to make it.
So with that being said, what type of threat could you be? This would depend on how much lava you could summon or I guess unleash. So at the beginning of usage, I would say maybe city block level and possibly city level with some growth in your abilities. The smoke that you would unleash could possibly push it up to state though.
Theoretically, you could push to global with the right conditions and burn everything.
I'm gonna reboot you tonight. Next, we have speak all languages, and there's no reason to give a detailed explanation. It's in the name. Now, for the power's usefulness, this has the biggest range of real-world uses that wouldn't get you on a government watch list. There are many jobs for translators in speaking roles or even in translating manuals for products. You could be a multicultural content creator or just go and explore the world and everything it has to offer.
Technically, this applies to all forms of languages, so you can also communicate with animals and technology.
Yep, if it yaps, you understand and can respond. Now, if you have an evil itch, it's basically the same type of work, but for the wrong type of people, and maybe convince a city worth of spiders to go on the attack.
That would explain Australia.
Should burn that place with lava. But what are the drawbacks? None, actually. This doesn't come with a crazy cost other than what you normally get from paying attention and listening to people talk a lot. Tired, annoyed at the worst. You know what? Now that I think about it though, the ability to turn it off. Because imagine all the animals that you have no choice but to listen to when you're simply trying to rest. Now, what type of threat would this make you? None at all is what most would think, but used correctly, you could take over the planet in a number of ways. Either by animals, tech, or through the power of secrets. You could be a global instigator on an insane Dr. Dolittle level. Next on our list is Combustion.
The ability to cause one's own body or objects to combust and ignite.
The best ability for a crash out, but how could you use it in today's world? You can't without getting the government on you out the gate. This power is only for diabolical reasons, so you can hunt down ops.
Blowing up a problem sounds heroic to me.
Well, for countermeasures though, anything cold or water related, but the problem with that is
they would have to be quicker than an explosion.
Exactly. So for a better counter would be someone with thermal manipulation or absorption/negation. But would this power have any drawbacks? Well, if you're able to explode and remain unharmed by it, then on some level you have invulnerability. But the aftermath of the explosion could be problematic, like the smoke from it. So I'll say smoke immunity. The explosion may deplete all of your energy, dehydrate, or rob the area of air temporarily. So let's say super stamina, endurance, and lungs. So we aren't a threat to ourselves when using this. With all the pros and cons laid out for each.
Which superpower would you choose?